Something like that.
Yeah.
As they say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
I know. That's what Kalea said at that
Yeah.
conference. And I was
Yeah.
like, that is a great call. Okay. Well, it looks like we're live. Thanks for joining. I've got Matt Lunden here from the Lunden Group in Coastal Delaware. And this is the first of many Beyond Texas talks of just discussing where people might be moving to and what kinds of things they should be thinking about and considering when they're making their moves out of state. So thanks for joining us. And yeah, just tell us a little bit about yourself to get us started.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I, as you mentioned, I run a small real estate sales team here in Coastal Delaware. Small state, but we are at the beaches here in Delaware. Me and my team, I've got currently it's me, an admin, and a VA. Year to date, we've closed just over $20 million in real estate. So it's been a fun little adventure. Yeah. I generate most of my business from clients looking to relocate to this area, and I find most of those people on YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's the brief elevator talk, I guess, about me.
Yeah.
But the area, it's a great area. Again, we're in the beaches here in Delaware. So, Rehoboth Beach is probably like the most prominent known beach. We get a lot of people from the DC market that come here for vacation, that kind of stuff. So we're known as the nation's summer capital.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I've never been to Delaware, so I'm excited to hear about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what, you already gave us kind of a brief overview, but what do you love about that area?
I enjoy the outdoors. So we've got the beaches, we've got plenty of walking trails, biking trails, all that kind of stuff. I mean, even though Delaware is very flat in elevation, I think the highest point in my county is like 30 feet above sea level. So we are very flat. But yeah, no, there's plenty of things to do outdoors, which is one of the biggest reasons why we live here.
Yeah. Did you grow up there?
Yes and no. So my grandparents lived here. I grew up technically in New Jersey. My dad's job was in New Jersey.
Okay.
So we went up there, and then I went away for college in South Carolina, but moved back here afterwards. So I always lived here during the summers and all that kind of stuff because my grandparents were here.
So you guys do like a lot of beaching, and what is there like lots of fishing, things like that, golf? I know you're a golfer.
Yeah, you name it. We've got the outdoor activity just about, unless it involves a mountain because we don't have any of those. But yeah, a lot of beach time, a lot of pool time. We've got a bike trail that runs through our backyard that I think when it's all said and done being built, it'll be like 70 miles of bike trail. So we can hop right on that through our backyard, which we take advantage of all the time. Fishing, nice. You can either go on either one of the charter boats. Some people have their own boats, or you can fish right from the beach in the afternoons, which is nice. Cool. But yeah, anything saltwater, we got it.
Do you guys have any like popular attractions other than the beaches, or is it?
In this area, the beaches are pretty much it. If you're a craft beer fan, we've got Dogfish Head Brewery is the town next to me. So I know they kind of blew up in popularity, particularly in the last couple of years, and they sold to Sam Adams or Boston Beer. But they're where all their beer is made is about 6 miles from my house.
What town is that in?
Milton, Delaware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we already touched on the recreational activities. What would you describe like the culture of the area, or just kind of like the general vibe?
It is mostly laid back. They call it slower, lower Delaware for good reason.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, everybody here is, they're on beach time. They're not moving very fast to get many things done. There's some times where you can schedule a contractor to come do some work at your house, and it's a perfect day outside. He might decide to go fishing instead of coming to your house to do the work that he signed up for. So, I mean, it's definitely a laid back atmosphere. As you get a little bit further from the beaches, we run a little bit more into like farmland and that kind of stuff. And then up north in Delaware is going to be more like urban, closer to Philadelphia.
Okay. I'm curious how that works with like vendors and stuff. Do you have to reschedule a lot, or does that create issues, or now you've got it like dialed in?
Yeah. So I only work with people that I know are going to show up.
Yeah.
There is definitely a lot of them. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of them that, it's such a nice day out. I could go be on the boat instead of going to paint that house. So you definitely get that a lot. Yeah.
So
But
that's the
luckily,
phrase is slower, lower Delaware.
slower, lower Delaware. There are some people that have adopted lower, slower Delaware. So they've got the bumper sticker on the back of their car that just says LSD.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But
so
yeah,
funny.
slower, lower Delaware. It's definitely a way of life. You know, you get people that move down here from New York and New Jersey, and
Yeah.
it's a completely different lifestyle up there.
Yeah.
And we see them kind of just fall right into that slow mindset once they get down here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, do you think that there's any like hidden gems in that area that people would want to come check out? I know you talked about the breweries or anything else that you can think of.
Yeah, we've got a great state park system. I think they may not be hidden gems quite so much anymore because they have definitely blown up over the last,
Yeah.
probably since COVID, really, when outdoors kind of became the thing. But yeah, right in the town that I live in, which is called Lewis, we've got a state park called Cape Henlopen State Park. It's the largest state park in the state. They've got everything from bike trails, kayaks, fishing. There's a bunch of World War II, like lookout towers and museum. There's a museum in there as well for World War II stuff. So it's cool to be able to go
Cool.
in there and spend the day.
Nice. Sounds
Yeah.
fun. What about climate? Like, talk to us about that. Obviously, we're here in Texas. It's super, super hot all the time.
Yeah,
What do
you
you
guys,
got over
you
there?
can melt your skin down there in Texas. That's a different world. That is a different world. We're
We
pretty
don't really have too many
mild.
seasons either. So,
Yeah, Austin is the only place I've ever been where it was hotter at 10 p.m. at night than it was at 2 in the afternoon. It's crazy.
yeah.
But we're pretty mild. We don't get much snow in the wintertime. Our coldest months are typically January and February. We'll see the daily average temperature somewhere in the mid 40s.
Oh, that's not
Um,
bad.
yeah, and then, we may occasionally get a small snowstorm and the snow melts by the next day.
Okay.
Summertime, it gets hot though. We get hot and humid, not quite as hot as Austin, but it gets hot and
Sure.
humid. August, we may see a couple days hit triple digits, but it's not like it's sustained for very long. And then spring and fall are typically pretty ideal. Fall is like my
Yeah.
favorite time of year down here. It's 75 degrees outside. There's no humidity.
Mhm.
And it's nice.
You guys get good like leaf changes and colors.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we sure
Yeah.
do.
That's
Not quite
awesome.
as much as like the Northeast up in New England. We got some, decent amount of pine trees being that we are a very sandy
Mhm.
soil. But yeah, we definitely do get some of those leaf changes, which is always cool.
Yeah, I love fall. It's like my favorite. And we always get fall here really late, like around Thanksgiving, it seems like is when things are starting to turn for colors and
And it doesn't get
we have
very
like
cold there in the winter, right? I mean, you guys are just hot year round.
perpetual. Yeah, I mean it can get cold, but for the most part it's pretty mild for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so talk to me about cost of living there.
Yeah, so I at least in my limited experience from people that I've discussed moving from Texas to here, the one difference I think is that you guys don't have or have a very low income tax.
We don't have state
Um,
income tax. That's
yeah,
correct.
so
Yeah.
our we do have a higher state income tax here than you guys because you guys have none.
Right.
Um, However, our property taxes are like the fifth lowest in the country.
Okay.
So the average, like if you were to go out and buy the average home, which right now our average home is about $550,000. So for that average home, you're probably paying $1,800 to $2,000 per year in property taxes.
Okay.
And then we don't have sales tax. So
Okay. Oh, okay.
it can be pretty affordable. The one spot where they do get you is our real estate has started to get pretty expensive just because they're not making any
Yeah.
more coastline.
Right. It's a smaller state too. So
Yeah,
that makes
true.
sense.
Yeah.
What are the most like sought after neighborhoods or cities over by you?
Um, it depends on what you're looking for. So I
Hmm.
would say like Rehoboth Beach is probably the most sought after for like second homes, vacation homes, rental properties, and that kind of stuff. If you're looking for more year-round living, it's probably going to be more like Lewis, which is just a town north of Rehoboth, and then a bunch of those surrounding areas as well. But there are people that are moving down here to the beaches at a high rate.
Yeah.
So
Really? Okay.
yeah, especially with all the work from home stuff now and people not having to
Yeah.
go back into the office space, we're starting to see a lot more people move down here to like again, New Jersey, just one state north of us, their average property tax bill is like 15 grand a year. So for
Wow.
those people to come down here and save, potentially 10 to 12 grand, that's a pretty big amount of
Yeah.
savings for them.
Yeah. It sounds like y'all's property taxes are pretty low, huh?
Yeah, very low.
Yeah. So, okay, so we're starting to get into the housing market. So what would you like, what's the current state there for housing? What would you say as far as affordability? I know you already kind of mentioned like the
Yeah, I
median
think
home price.
with purchase prices and interest rates, I think affordability is kind of a concern nationwide.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Certainly more so affordable in other places, but yeah, you definitely pay a lot for the actual house, especially in the beach towns, just because of their popularity and because we get so many people moving here from other states where they've lived for the last say they lived in the last home for the last 30 years. They're coming down here and paying cash just based on what
Yeah.
they've built up over the last 30 years. So we see a lot of that. So our housing prices have gone up pretty drastically. Um, as far as like the state of the housing market here, it depends on the neighborhood and the house currently.
Okay.
I've seen houses in the same price next to each other in the same neighborhood. One of them sells in an hour and one of them's on the market for 6 months. I can't explain it. I don't know why.
It's
Um,
so weird. I think that's
yeah,
pretty much everywhere right now.
it's definitely an interesting time in the real estate
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Um, I was just at a house this morning showing it, and there was one next to it that's coming soon. So I called the agent in there, and she's already got a couple offers on it, and it's not even active on the market yet, which is just crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think there's a lot of people that if they feel like they're getting a deal, they're willing to kind of get in there.
And then it's the whole psychology of it that then they hear that other people are doing it and it's like then it
Creates
creates
that like
that. Yeah.
auction style bidding war, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So remind me what you said the average home price was there?
So it depends on the town and depends on if you're in city limits or outside of city limits. So in the actual beach towns themselves, so if you're within city limits of Lewis, Rehoboth, Bethany, or Fenwick Island, um, you're going to be hard pressed to find anything under $1 million in any of those towns.
Okay.
If you're outside of the city limits, you're probably more looking like upper fives, low sixes.
Okay.
Um, certainly we can get more expensive and we can find stuff that's less expensive. But in the beach market, I would say like 600 to 700 is probably a good, like, just ballpark price of where you need to be at.
Interesting. And then like with your the fact they're coastal, is the insurance cost a little higher as well?
I don't know what insurance costs in Texas, so I can't. But
Right.
the vast majority of our area is actually not in a flood zone.
Okay.
So unless you're direct beachfront or bayfront, you don't have to carry flood insurance.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
I would
good.
say for like the average house, we're probably 1,500 to 1,700 a year, maybe
Oh,
for
that's not bad.
house
That's not
insurance.
bad.
Yeah, yes, it's not terrible.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious because it's so coastal, but
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you get up on like that beachfront stuff and you got a nice house up on the beach, it's going to be expensive.
right.
But if you're buying a $6 million house, you also probably have the ability
Yeah.
to pay for the homeowner's insurance.
Yeah, no, my mind was just going because you were talking about property taxes being lower, and I was like, well, I think the average price point being higher could work out for people if the property taxes are so low. Because here, we have higher property taxes since we don't have
Sure.
state income tax, so it just
Yeah.
offsets it. So,
Yeah, a little bit.
um,
The one thing we do have that's really actually that I forgot to mention is there is on every sale of real estate in the state, there is a 4% tax levy on transfer tax levied on it. So
okay,
4% total of the purchase price is paid to both the state and the county, not individually, but they split up that 4%. In most resales, that's split to 2% to each side, but our closing costs are very high in Delaware because of that.
okay. What is that? What's the purpose of that? The transfer fee.
Because it's basically you're basically prepaying your property taxes for a few years.
Oh, okay, okay,
So the state uses it basically as a way to generate more income because we have such low property taxes and no sales tax. They
mm,
use that transfer tax as a way to get enough income to be able to run the state, basically.
gotcha. Okay, so closing costs would be a little higher. That's
Correct.
interesting. So, what are some of the what are the most common housing styles over there?
I would
Like, do you guys have a lot of
say
new construction? Is it a lot of older
a
homes?
mess of new construction. They are
Really?
building just so in Delaware, we've only got 3 counties, so it's not like there's a whole lot of space here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in my county alone right now, they're probably building in 100 different neighborhoods. Um, I mean, they are every piece of farmland currently is,
They
if
found
it's
it.
not already in land conservation, it is up for sale more than likely.
Yeah.
They are building just about everywhere, because really when Hurricane Sandy hit the Jersey Shore in 2000, I think that was
Yeah.
2013. When it hit the Jersey Shore in the next year, 2014, more people found out about Delaware because they couldn't go to their houses in New Jersey anymore. So they came here. And then I think it was 2015, which would have been 2 years after. It was like those people that came here in 2014 went back and told everybody. So the floodgates have been opened since then. And this place has exploded. I mean, they can't keep up with building. They've been building so much, and
Yeah.
it just seems like it's just still not enough.
How's that going as far as the infrastructure, like, utilities and all like that? Has that been a problem or a challenge?
Yeah, it's a little taxing at times.
Yeah.
The roadways are probably where you see it the most.
Mhm.
When I was a kid down here, the summertime beach traffic, that every beach town has summertime traffic. But really, once you got outside of June to August, once you got into any other month, there was really no traffic, and now it's starting to become more year round. So they're starting on work on expanding roads and all that kind of stuff. The biggest issue we see is actually with doctors' offices.
Okay.
Um, when you move here, if you've got a bunch of medical things that you need taken care of, I always tell people to start scheduling their doctor's appointments as soon as they go under contract on a home, because sometimes it could be 3, 4, 5 months before you can get a doctor's appointment.
Really?
Once you're established, it's easy, but that initial appointment can take quite some time.
You're just full service over there. You're like getting them under contract. You're like, make your
Yeah,
doctor's appointments now.
we do it all. We do it all. And it's a
Love
small
it.
state too, so I probably know the doctor and I probably know the dentist
Yeah.
and everybody else. So.
You know everybody.
Exactly.
I know. I always forget how small it is, especially compared to
Yeah,
Texas.
the entire state. So I don't know what's the population in Austin?
Oh, that would be a good question. Hold on one second.
So
The
the entire state of Delaware just crossed 1 million people in population last year.
Okay. Yeah, we're at 975,000 for Austin.
So you're in just one city. You've got as many people as we have in the entire state. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, how long does it take for you to get from one end to the other of the state?
From bottom to top, you're probably hour and 45 minutes, hour and a half. At the widest part to get from the sand to the Maryland border is probably 45 minutes to an hour.
That's like still within my market area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like where I'm doing showings every day.
Yeah, it's small. It's definitely small. But it's, there's a ton of different, even though it is so small, there's a ton of different, every town's got its own feel.
Yeah.
Between the western side of the county and this side of the county, it's completely different as far as like one's farmland and all that kind of stuff. The other one's very like beach town with boardwalk and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Very cool.
So it's cool.
So what advice would you give someone moving from Texas to your area regarding like specifically like the housing market?
Start your search probably sooner than you think you need to, because there's not a whole ton on the market. And if you opt to go with the new construction, which, currently a lot of people, I think I've done like 20 new construction deals this year. So a lot of people are going that route, and that's, depending on the builder you go with, that could be a 6 to 14 month timeline.
Right.
So if you don't necessarily need to be there in a hurry and you're thinking about the new construction stuff, I would start that process sooner rather than later. And then call those doctor's appointments once you get
Yeah.
get set up as soon as you're under contract.
Yeah, truly. What about major industries in the area? Like, what are your job market, largest employers, that sort of a thing?
Yeah. So in this area, it's mostly hospitality industry.
Okay.
It's gonna be mostly, restaurants, bars, that kind of stuff. If we expand outside of the area a little bit, we've got Dover Air Force Base, which is in the middle of the state, which, they've got all the military jobs. And then up in northern Delaware, we've got DuPont, which is a pretty large, pretty large company. We don't necessarily have any like major industries other than like the chicken industry. Chicken farming is pretty big down here. There was a time in Delaware's history where I think we were the #1 exporter of chickens.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't think that's still the case, but we had a lot. There's still a lot of chicken farms out in the western side of the state for sure.
Mhm.
So I would say probably chicken farming is probably like the number one industry. Um,
Crazy.
but in this particular beach market, it's mostly hospitality stuff.
Right, resort stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously you mentioned earlier, but a lot of your people that are relocating, they probably just work remotely or they don't have to go into an office.
Yeah. The vast majority of people that I work with are retired or soon to be retired.
Okay.
So they're not worried about work.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the folks that we see that are moving to this area that are currently still employed, most of them are either working remote or um, we do have some stuff moving into the area. You know, the medical system is growing pretty rapidly, so we do see some doctors and that kind of stuff moving here.
Mhm.
But the largest number of people that are moving here are retirees.
Gotcha. Okay. So it might not apply as much then, but what would you say about schools and like educational opportunities for people if they're moving with kids?
Yeah, so obviously keep it on the up and up with fair housing, but
Yep.
we do have some great public school system throughout the area. The one that's mostly through the area I work is called Cape Henlopen School District. That's where my daughter goes and all that kind of fun stuff. So they do a nice job. We don't have a ton in the way of like private schools down here.
Okay.
I think the closest private school is probably the best one is, and not my ranking of best, the internet's ranking of best. But the closest one's probably like 45 minutes away.
Okay.
There are some that are closer, but I don't know that I would necessarily utilize them.
So like lots of public school options, and then
Yeah.
some privates, maybe some charter schools. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys have those there.
Mostly going to be public school throughout this area.
Any colleges?
We got University of Delaware up in
Right.
up north.
Okay.
And then there's some like community colleges and smaller colleges throughout the state. Delaware Tech is about 30 minutes west of where I live. So that's a tech school.
Okay.
But UDEL is going to be definitely the biggest one.
Gotcha. How about public transportation? Is it like an area where you're pretty dependent on a car?
Definitely.
Okay.
Unless you live like downtown in one of the beach towns and you can either walk to most places or take a bike to most places. If you don't live in one of those downtown areas, you're going to be relying on a car pretty heavily. We
Okay.
do have a bus system that runs throughout the beach towns to try and alleviate some of the, mess of parking. I wouldn't say that it's the most efficient, though. It definitely can take a little bit of time just because, again, there's just not a whole ton of options. And
Yeah.
most people do use cars, so they don't add any more buses because they're not being utilized enough to justify it. So definitely very car dependent in this area.
A lot of the beaches more public access or private, I guess?
Yeah, so we do have a little bit of a mix of both.
Mhm.
I would say the vast majority of them are public access. There are some communities that do have their own quote unquote private beaches where they own down to the tide line. Um, I don't think anybody's necessarily going to stop you if you're on the beach and you walk in front of their
Right.
houses, but
Yeah.
technically they do own the sand in those cases.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of what we have is all public beach.
Cool. So I know we talked a little bit about taxes, but can you expand on that? Like how Delaware handles taxes, what kind of financial advantages people would need to know about or disadvantages either way?
Yeah, so like I said, we have very low property taxes. I think we're the fifth or sixth lowest in the country for property taxes. We don't have sales tax, um, so
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
pretty cost effective. Yeah, I think that transfer tax that I mentioned is going to be the highest thing that you have to pay. Delaware is very corporation friendly. We have the most corporations out of any state in the country.
Hmm.
So I think that's also where they get a lot of their money from, is just from people trying to protect themselves by incorporating here, because there are quite a few, laws protecting owners of corporations and that kind of stuff where they can remain pretty much anonymous.
Hmm.
Where I know
I
a lot
didn't
of
know
other
that.
other states have to disclose, where they, who the owner is and all that kind of stuff. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so most people that move here because it is cost effective in relation to wherever they're coming from.
Yeah.
There are certainly some states that are more cost effective than us. But in comparison to Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York, which are kind of our immediate neighbors, we are way more cost effective than those areas. So that's where the vast majority of the people we see moving here from.
Anything that you can think of that's like a disadvantage financially with that sort of stuff? Sounds like not. But.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cost of real estate here
Right.
is probably a disadvantage as far as like financial stuff. Particularly in comparison to a lot of those other markets that I just mentioned, because they're more expensive on a daily basis. Their real estate is more affordable in many
Mm-hmm.
areas.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the beach markets here, because they're not making any more coastline anytime soon, at least that I'm aware of. There's a high draw to be in those areas. So with that high demand just comes higher prices.
Yeah.
So most often you pay a little bit more for the house here than you do in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
But then you make that back over, again, not having sales tax, having low
Right.
property taxes, all that kind of stuff.
When you're talking about like beach towns, and I'm thinking of going out to a restaurant on the beach or on the
Yeah.
coast, is it? Would you say that it's pretty?
I think I lost you. You there? Oh, are you there? Did I get you
I
back? I got you back.
what great timing! First
um,
live stream. Let's just have some technical difficulties.
yeah. So
Perfect.
you asked if you were to go out to a restaurant, is it expensive?
Yeah. Like what kind of? I mean, it's just thinking of
It
resort towns and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So it just depends. I mean, we've got everything from bar food, that's not too bad, all the way up to some like more fine dining. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think most people, particularly the people that I talk to that come here from like a DC market or, somewhere like that, like they expect to have 50 options of every different food type just because they're in a major city. Um,
Mm-hmm.
where here you may have 2 or 3 options of every different food type. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I don't think the cost is that prohibitive. I think when I go other places, I definitely think that they're more expensive to eat than here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like when we were up in Philadelphia, for instance, like I thought the
Right.
food and stuff there was more expensive than down here.
Hmm. I didn't really pay attention. I'll be honest. What would you give for tips for adjusting to the lifestyle? Sounds like slow down.
Yeah, just take it a little slower. No, people are in a rush
Chill.
all the time. Yeah, life's easy down here. It's relaxed. We're on beach
That's
time. We don't need to be in a hustle bustle, kind of attitude. Um,
I love that.
everybody likes to be a little more relaxed. I think part of it is too, like the amount of retirees that are moving to this area. Most of those people don't have necessarily a reason to go out there
Yeah,
and grind and hustle. Um,
true.
so it is very laid back, particularly in
Yeah,
the beach towns. Yeah.
love that. How would you say local residents view newcomers? Like, is it easy for them to integrate into the community? You're smiling like it's not.
If you go on any Facebook group local to the area, they will voice their opinion very
Oh
strongly
my
that
gosh.
they do not want anybody to move here. No, I
That's how it
think
is everywhere, though. I feel like
yeah,
everybody's like, no
definitely,
more
definitely,
people.
definitely. And it's so funny, like the people that are the loudest ones that are like, you definitely
Yeah,
can't move here, are typically people that just move here.
yeah.
So like it's full for you, but not for me.
We closed the gates right after.
Exactly. Yeah, I was the last one. I'm in. Um, no, I think yeah, once you're down here and you start getting to talk to people, like people are very nice down here. Everybody is very pleasant to talk with. Um, I think the online persona, the keyboard warriors out there definitely get a little
Yeah,
bit more feisty. Um, but yeah, I think once you're down here, once you're living here, everybody treats everybody pretty well.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Any other, I mean, I know we've touched a lot of things, but any like challenges that you think people would face when they come here since you deal with a lot of people that are relocating? I know you mentioned like the doctors and stuff.
Yeah,
like
the biggest complaint I probably hear is that we don't have a major airport close by. So if you're somebody
Okay.
that needs to do a lot of traveling, particularly if you live in the beach markets, the closest major airport is probably 2 hours away.
Mhm.
So you're driving in your car 2 hours, then getting to the airport, then doing the flying. So it can be a
Right.
lot. Um,
And which airport is that?
Either Philadelphia or Baltimore are typically the 2
Okay.
closest.
Oh, that's right, because you drove to Philly.
I did, yeah.
You were
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to
yeah.
just come in. Yeah,
Yep,
that's
sure
nice.
did. So for us, it's not terrible. I think that they kind of intentionally keep it that way because if it was easier to get here, this place would be even more overrun with people.
Mhm.
So I don't think they have any plans to add any airports closer.
Right.
We've got a
It's
small, like, private plane airport that's only about 25 minutes away.
uh-huh.
But I don't have the private plane money, so I will not be flying
Not yet.
that.
Having a good
But yeah,
year.
I would say if you're somebody that needs to travel a lot, say you're doing a lot of traveling for work and stuff, and you need to get on airplanes a lot, it can be difficult
That's a
living
big
down
challenge.
here. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Well, cool. Well, do you have any like personal stories or experiences that talk about, that would encapsulate like what it's like to live there? Anything that you just really love about the area?
Yeah,
Not
it's a
that
cool
maybe you
place.
don't want more people moving there. I don't know.
No, no, it's a cool place. I mean, it's definitely definitely still has a lot of small town charm, despite the
Okay.
fact that we are growing rapidly. I can go in any handful of restaurants, and I know most of the people working in there still because it's the same people that have been working in there for the last 15 years.
I love that.
It's definitely all the restaurants here, like chain restaurants, don't survive very well here, so it's mostly mom and
Mm,
pop owned restaurants.
love
Um,
that.
so it's definitely, it's a slower pace of life. We're in the beach towns. As long as you treat other people with respect in the area, you'll do just fine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's a cool place to live.
Cool. This has been really nice. I like hearing about other places as well and just like the differences because I've only ever done real estate in Texas. So it's just
Sure.
interesting to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Um,
appreciate you having me on.
yeah. So let the people know like where they can find you if they're interested in learning more about, your area or.
Yes, the best place if you're looking to learn about coastal Delaware, the best place to look is on YouTube. You can just search "living in coastal Delaware." My face will pop up. I have the #1 real estate related YouTube channel in the state. So I put out information weekly on there, just discussing all things coastal Delaware. And then if you want to journey off of YouTube, you can find me on Instagram. My name is just @MattLunden, so just all one word on there.
Awesome.
But yeah, yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for being my first live stream for
I
this
I
new
appreciate you
venture.
having me. Yeah, let's do it again sometime.
All right, cool. We'll
All right.
talk soon.
You got it.
Bye.
Bye.